What's up everybody, we just got a brand new 1.04 patch that changed multiple members of your favorite heroes, plus the ever-changing pro meta has dramatically changed the Valorant agent tier list. So let's run it down from God S tier to garbage C tier and everything in between. But before we get started, smash the subscribe button and don't unsubscribe even if your favorite hero is in C tier. Anyways, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So the first tier is the S tier, the creme de la creme, the chads of your school, the always get the girls. S tier is the best of the best, and there are two characters in the S tier, Cypher and Sage. Now let's hit them one at a time. First off, let's talk about Cypher. Now Cypher just got a minor buff where you can actually pick up his Cypher cages in the buy round, which might not seem like a big deal, but for the majority of players, it is a huge deal. Sometimes you accidentally throw it. Sometimes you throw it in the wrong spot and you change your mind. Sometimes you want to set up a one-way smoke and you try like 5 times and you can't do it every single game, but now you get to try over and over again until you get it just right. Now this change doesn't change him at all in our tier list. Cypher is amazing for pro play and ranked play alike. His information, the constant threat of information from his camera, his trap wires that people are getting ever so crafty with, allowing you to essentially pick up a free kill on an unsuspecting enemy. Cypher just brings so much to the table, and from an information standpoint, which at its core, information is king in Valorant, and Cypher is one of the best information gatherers. I mean, if you compare him side by side with Sova, sure, Sova has a lot of aggressive information capabilities, but no character can get a constant stream of information just like Cypher can, and for those reasons, Cypher is necessary at pro play, seeing an astronomical pick rate, and in ranked play, he is undoubtedly one of the best characters that you could be rocking on any team. Now moving on to the next character in the S tier is Sage, the baddest chick around. I mean, Sage is an absolute powerhouse in Valorant. She is the Ice Queen herself. She slows, she walls. Every single one of her abilities is so powerful. And honestly, when it comes down to the concept of delay, which really prevents rush strategies, makes players play in default for a long amount of time, drains out the clock and puts pressure on them, Sage has the best stalling capabilities in the entire game. On top of that, we haven't even touched on her heal, which is frankly just an appallingly crazy powerful ability in Valorant. As long as Sage has a heal, I think that she will be incredibly powerful no matter what. And then her ultimate is debatably the best ultimate in the game. I mean, being able to res an ally, especially if you get a pick res, at a numbers advantage, numbers parity, it's always good at any stage of the game, whether it's for eco's sake, whether it's for coming back from a losing round, or putting the nail in a coffin of a winning round. Sage has always been top tier, and until she gets dynamic changes, she always will be top tier. Now moving on to the A tier, these are characters that are not quite as marvelous as the S tier, but they are very, very powerful, and each of these characters plays a vital role in pro play. Now, in the A tier, we have 4 characters: Brim, Omen, Phoenix, and Sova. Now, first off, we need to talk about Brimstone, who might just be the best smoker in the game. I mean, the fact that he gets targeted smokes and he gets 3 of them, they're extremely easy to use and incredibly powerful. On top of that, the fact that his Molly is another one of the very, very most powerful AoE abilities in the game. Brimstone is undoubtedly insanely good. On top of that, with his new change to Stim Beacon, it makes him even more powerful because Stim Beacon is actually a usable ability now. For those of you who don't know, it will not affect enemies, so that means it won't give them any boost, and enemies won't be able to see its area of effect, which means you could use it and have its benefits without an enemy knowing exactly where you were, because before, all you could do it is to misdirect enemies. That was really its only purpose, and now it could actually be a little bit usable, so that is a mark for Brimstone. But the mark against Brimstone actually is that his ultimate was changed slightly. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It is only 1 point, and yes, that could matter in some games, but it's not enough to change Brim on the tier list. And I think this buff to Stim Beacon more than makes up for it. Now moving on to the next character in the A tier, we have Omen, which is seeing more and more pro play. Now, Omen's teleport aspect is cool, but the interesting thing is, one, his ultimate is actually very useful for information because it can be canceled, which, like I said, information is king. 2, Omen has powerful smokes, almost as powerful as Brimstone, which is great, especially in the double smoke meta when you want to smoke off oppers. Omen is great at that. And speaking of countering oppers, the fact that Omen not only has a slow but a flash means that he is very versatile. He is probably the most versatile characters on this list. And yes, he sees pro play, but I do think that he might be one of the most powerful characters to play in ranked solo play. If you're trying to find a character that can carry, has the tools to not only engage, but gather information, smoke off sites, Omen can do it all, and he might just be one of the best characters to climb with right now. Now moving on to the next character in the A tier is Phoenix. And Phoenix was in the shadow of Breach for a long time, but he's seeing more and more play as things go on. First off, the idea of pop flashing outside of a smoke is a concept that a lot of pros are incorporating now. Because of the tail on Phoenix's flash, it was very easy to avoid at a high level. But if you do it from inside of a smoke, the fact is it pops out of the smoke and instantly flashes. So enemies will get surprised by it. And not only that, but you can use enemy smokes to set up your engage from flashing inside. So this is an interesting strategy, but that's not the only way Phoenix has been being used. He's being used by people like Drone, flanking, lurking, getting value picks. The fact that he has his own sustain, he can heal himself, his ultimate can gather information and make aggressive plays. Phoenix is like a jack of all trades, but he's really good at what he does. And with this new pop flashing technique, he can do something specifically that Breach cannot. And all these factors combined, pro play and just ranked alike, mean that Phoenix is like the package deal that is definitely A tier material. Now the last character on the list in the A tier is Sova. And Sova is the second information gatherer out of only 2, Cypher, who's S tier, and Sova. I've said it before and I'll say it again, information is king. It is king in this game. And Sova, yes, doesn't bring as much inherent value on defense as Cypher, but if you know the rollouts on attack, you can bring exponentially more value on attack than Cypher can, especially if you can get that recon arrow exactly where you want it to. But here's the thing, in pro play, a lot of times, pro teams are running double info. Cypher plus Sova is a wicked combo, allowing you to gather tons of information, and the meta is kind of shifting to an op or counter op style, with either double info in one smoke, or double smoke in one info, or double info, double smoke. But a lot of times, if you do double info, double smoke, you're forgoing a Sage, which some teams are forgoing the Sage altogether because they want to play a Phoenix, but other teams are just having no pop flashers and just playing double info, double smoke, and a Sage, having no engage but using information plus LOS blocking to basically squeeze out the enemy, which is a cool strat. Not that exciting from a viewer's point of view, but I understand when the game is centered around ops, pop flashing is not necessarily the predominant strategy. Now moving on to the next tier list, we have the B tier, which the B tier are characters that are very, very good, and often all of these will see pro play. That being said, they might not see consistent pro play, or they only see it in some teams, in some scenarios. Some people forgo them for a different character altogether. So these characters are very powerful, and they're definitely powerful in ranked play, but that doesn't mean that they're just the best characters every single time, and they might not be seeing a substantial amount of pro play only on certain maps or things like that. So the first character is the brand new buffed Viper in the B tier. Viper was our worst character before, but now Viper is actually very strong. And I know I'm putting her at the top of B tier, but she could even be A. I mean, Viper is a smoke character that can rival Brim and Omen, especially with these ultimate and smoke buffs. The buff that specifically doesn't take double fuel when she activates both of her LOS blocking abilities means that Viper could really make aggressive pushes onto a point, and with her ultimate and just her ability to shut down a point on defense, I mean, she's versatile, man, and she's powerful. And I mean, if this op meta keeps ramping up and doesn't get solved, then we're gonna be just running triple smoke and double info, and no one's gonna see anything. We're gonna run a Sova, a Cypher, an Omen, a Brim, and a Viper, and no one's gonna see anything. Everything's gonna be blocked off, and the only thing you're gonna do is tag people with your information abilities through the smokes and snipe them that way. I mean, that's the meta that we're looking at, or that's the meta that could happen if things keep progressing in the way that they are, because it seems that people are progressing away from pop flashes. But we'll have to wait and see. There should be a balance made, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to target ops in some way at some point in the near future. Now the next character in the B tier is Breach, and Breach was one of our best characters on the list for a long time. And now he's kind of low. I mean, he does see a good amount of pro play. He is powerful, but you are seeing a lot of different mix-ups. The fact is, Breach is kind of linear in the way that he plays. He executes a certain flash, you go in, he clears angles, does all these things that is pretty good for pro play. The biggest problem is Breach only really excels at that one thing, and a lot of players are kind of putting their Phoenix or Pop Flasher role in a lurking kind of pick-oriented style, not necessarily a push-in style, and especially with a meta that revolves around operators, Breach doesn't take the front seat right now. Now, that doesn't mean that if the meta changes, it won't go right back to Breach. And Breach still, like I said, sees a good amount of play, but right now he's just in the pretty good category. He isn't as impactful as some of the heavy hitters that we're talking about, like Sage, Cypher, Brim, and so on. Now, the next character we have to talk about is Jett. And Jett is seeing a surprisingly good amount of play. I mean, she's one of the best operas in the game. Players like Wardale are picking her up and using her very often. But the thing is, she is map dependent. On some maps, she doesn't see any play at all, especially like a map like Ascent. She won't see hardly any play because when the enemies are running more smokes, you want to have more info, so you're playing the Sova instead of the Jett. But that doesn't mean that Jett doesn't see play on maps like Haven, for example. So Jett is a powerful character, and in ranked play, I'm sure you know that Jett can climb you very far. Lots of players have gotten Radiant and Immortal with Jett. Jett is a really strong character, but in pro play, her play is varied, so that's why she's in the B tier. Now, the last character on the list is Raze in the B tier, and she got a slight nerf from 6 ult charge to 7. Not a terribly big deal, but it's definitely something important to realize. Now, Raze is at the bottom of B tier, and she is not a bad character by any means. There's just so many good options right now, and it's hard to justify playing a Raze. Now, she does see play on specific maps, and depending on the strategy that you want to incorporate, Raze can be very powerful, and tons of pro teams are playing her here and there. But when you are building a core fundamental pro team comp, you are always sacrificing when you're playing a character like Raze. And unless you can for sure get value out of her kit, her utility, her nades, then it can be a liability to play someone like Raze. So that's why she's at the bottom of B tier. Now, for solo queue play, for ranked play, Raze is fantastic. One of the best characters you could pick. But just in pro play in general, Raze definitely gets some marks down. That's why she's at the bottom of B tier, even though she is still a really cool agent. And I do think that she would thrive more in a non-op filled meta. Now, the bottom of the barrel, C tier, dumpster tier, garbage, worst character of all time. No, I'm just kidding. The C tier is Reyna, and I'm not salty at all, but what I'm saying is Reyna is not very good for pro play, honestly. She's seeing very little pro play at all, and there is a big reason for this, and it just comes down to the fact that Reyna can't do anything without getting kills. You have to be the one to get the final blow, for one. So if you joint kill someone with someone and you don't kill them with the final blow, you're just gonna get no value, and you have to get that one kill. Your utility doesn't really do that much. Lear gets shut down so easily. There is just a lot of downside to Reyna when you compare her against the other characters, and specifically at pro play, Reyna is seeing the least amount of play out of any character right now, and that is just the truth for Reyna. That is why she's in the C tier, just because of pick rate. But you know, a character like Reyna in your ranked game, especially if you're mechanically insane, Reyna can hard carry. Tons of people climbed very high with Reyna. I'm not saying she's a bad solo carry champion or ranked carry champion, because honestly, she might be insane. I mean, she might be one of the best characters at climbing yourself, just having individual impact. But when you're talking about a team setting, the powerful abilities on the table is what matters, and Reyna's just really lack compared to all the other characters on the list, so that's why she's in the C tier for now. So if you agree with my list, you should smash that subscribe button, because we both agree and it's like a match made in heaven. And if you disagree with my list, then I'm really depressed about that. So smash that subscribe button so you can better cheer me up, because I need it. Anyways, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you disagree with anything I said, definitely let me know in the comments down below. That's all we got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time,